Hello, and welcome to Sustainable Outlook, a podcast from global law firm K&L Gates, where we discuss the transactions, technologies, and trends in the sustainable economy. We hope you enjoy this discussion. Please reach out with suggested topics or guests, or questions about how we can work together to create a sustainable economy.
Hi, and welcome to Sustainable Outlook. My guest today is Monique Dyers. She's the principal and CEO of Ensight Energy Consulting. Ensight Energy is an engineering and management consulting firm that provides project management and transactional advisory services, including independent engineering, to both conventional power and renewable energy. I'm very excited to have you today, Monique. Thanks for joining. I want to give our listeners a little bit of background, and then we'll just dive right into questions. Sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
So for our listeners, Monique holds both a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in electrical engineering, and she has over 17 years of experience in the energy and power industry. In addition to her technical and leadership roles in the area, she's committed to ensuring underrepresented communities are educated on energy policies and issues that may affect their communities. So she channels this by serving as the president of the Denver chapter of the American Association of Blacks in Energy, and on the boards of the City and County of Denver Sustainability Advisory Council, the American Council on Renewable Energy, or ACOR, and the Community College of Denver Foundation. She also mentors underprivileged students in math and science. I've been working with Monique to help one of our clients permit and build a large solar farm on tribal lands in Southwest Colorado. And so as a result, we spent a lot of time on video calls together, working through the details of the project, which she is a master of working through the details and the timelines and all the things we need to be keeping track of. And then earlier, I guess it was May 2022, I had the chance to finally meet her in person in Denver, and I got to hear more of her story. And I really enjoyed learning more about her background and her work. And I wanted to share that on the podcast. So welcome, Monique. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you so very much, Alyssa, and thanks for the invitation. I'm definitely looking forward to the conversation.
Good, great. Me too. So first question for you, and this harkens back to the coffee shop we were sitting in Denver on that 90-degree day. And then I think the next day there was a blizzard in town. But can you just tell us more about Ensight Energy? Kind of give us a broad overview of your work and Ensight's work. And then also I'd love to hear, or for our listeners to hear, how you forged your path to principal and CEO.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. So as you mentioned, Ensight Energy is an engineering and management consulting firm specialized in providing technical due diligence services such as independent engineering and owner's engineering, as well as engineering advisory services for renewable energy projects and energy infrastructure projects as well. Our clients include those stakeholders who are leading the energy transition, such as developers, owners, financiers, buyers, and sellers of renewable energy projects. Ensight Energy, we've provided technical advisory services to projects in capacities of about 2 megawatts to projects over 500 megawatts. Local to Colorado, we were the technical advisors to Denver Housing Authority and its finance partners for the agency's development of a 2 megawatt community solar garden, which was the first in the nation to be developed by a housing authority. And we provided advisory services to very large-scale renewable energy projects constructed on tribal land, as you and I are working on now. In addition to Colorado, we've supported projects throughout the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Ireland, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. We worked on a microgrid project in Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've supported a number of stakeholders in advancing their ESG goals, and have supported states in the development of their clean energy plan, ultimately to ensure that no communities are left behind in the clean energy transition.
Awesome. Such cool work. How did you forge your path here? This is what I loved learning about as you kind of told me your story.
Yeah, so I'll try to make this brief, but I definitely had throughout my career opportunities to work with some amazing and talented individuals, and have had great mentors and advisors along the way. I started my career at Caterpillar in Griffin, Georgia, designing genset engines as an electrical engineer. But before I continue, I'd like to state how my career started at Caterpillar. During my graduate studies, I had 2 job offers, one from Caterpillar and the other from an aerospace and defense company. And ultimately needing some advice on these two job offers, I discussed both positions with my graduate study advisor at the time. And he suggested that I should take the job at the aerospace and defense company because they were more friendly to women. I thanked him for his advice and immediately started my career at Caterpillar, which was the right and best decision. And I didn't look back on that. So while at Caterpillar, I served in various engineering and project management roles. I even served in marketing and supported some long-term projects in Lauren, Ireland and St. George, Bahamas. After many years at Caterpillar, I had the opportunity to work for Vestas, leading their generator development team here in Colorado. I guess you would say this was somewhat of my introduction into the renewable energy space. After several years of working at Vestas, I'd like to say I found the perfect industry for my skill set, providing transactional advisory services to stakeholders of energy projects. Working on wind projects was ultimately an easy transition for me since I designed the generators used in those projects. I went on to work for very large IE and OE consulting firms such as AWS True Power, now UL, prior to starting Ensight Energy 7 years ago. Most recently, I had breakfast with one of my former colleagues, a great friend and mentor of mine. And she told me that she thought it was very commendable for me to start a consulting firm in one of the hardest sectors of consulting to be in. And I sat with this statement for a while because I didn't know how to digest it, because I never really thought of my decision to start Ensight as being very commendable, but I truly think it is. In my position, I am one of the first Black women to own and operate a consulting firm providing independent engineering and owner's engineering services to the renewable energy sector. And it's definitely something commendable and to be proud of.
Absolutely. I love your spirit where you said to your first advisor, thank you very much. I'm going to take on a bigger challenge.
Yeah. And I never really considered myself a risk taker, but as I look over my career and starting as early as I don't want to be where it's comfortable, I guess you can say I'm a risk taker. And being in my undergraduate studies, graduating from LSU, I was one of 2 African-American women to graduate with an electrical engineering degree out of maybe 150 of us. Wow. So I've always kind of been in that place of, minority. And so going to Caterpillar, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to take what some people may think is the easy route. Let me see how this is going to be. And it was the best thing ever. Very great people, great colleagues and mentors that I interacted with there. So I went and changed it for the world.
I know from a personal perspective, because I've worked with you for, is it close to 2 years now, I think, maybe on a project. But for our listeners, what does Ensight Energy's contribution to a project look like?
So I would see that our advisory services and engagement look different based on the client that we're supporting and advising. Ensight Energy's role is truly to provide technical due diligence for projects to ensure our clients understand where their technical risk may exist within a project and to ensure that those technical risks are reduced or ultimately mitigated for our clients. And so the project that you and I are working on, we're providing owner's engineering services. So we're typically engaged very early on in the project development for such services as feasibility study, prospecting and site selection, preparation of CapEx and OpEx, technical estimates, preliminary engineering design services, and interconnection application, selection of EPC contractors, O&M contractors, amongst other things. And also as owner's engineering, we also monitor the construction progress of the project as well. Once construction commences, providing inspections and technical support, quality assurance, quality control. So those are some of the things that we would provide as owner's engineering, our technical contributions. For IE services, we're sometimes engaged very early on. However, for the most part, such development activities, as I mentioned, have already commenced, such as permitting matrices and requirements, interconnection applications and studies, and EPC selections as well. Our role as IE is to ensure the development technical requirements have been carried out in accordance with best practices, the design complies with industry standards and codes, appropriate permits have been obtained, contractor scope of work aligns with proper industry standards, such things as warranty are typical and standard, and we truly have an understanding of where the risk may be associated with the technical terms of such contracts as EPC, O&M, power purchase agreements. But we're only looking at those technical aspects. Well, we leave the legal aspects of those agreements to you, Alyssa. But for those IE projects, we also provide construction monitoring too, so that we can opine on milestone completion activities, quality assurance, quality control, amongst other things. So it definitely varies between the IE and OE, but there is a lot of similarities regarding the type of work that we provide within those services.
And plus, and from just what I've noticed over the course of these couple of years working with you, is you also are doing a lot of travel and networking, right? I feel like you're at every renewable energy conference out there, and you're also managing a company to a degree as well. So I don't know when you sleep, Monique.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And I think, after coming off of the couple of years of COVID, last year was just a lot of conferences and being face to face with clients. And so it was very encouraging and motivating to get out and see what was going on in the industry again after years of being in Zooms, Teams, WebEx, and so many other conference and video calls. So
just kind of looking back on the course of your career, the various roles that you have played and still play, like the different hats that you wear, and the changing industry, I would love to hear one or two lessons that you've learned along the way, or kind of insights you might want to provide our listeners on the trajectory of your career, and then also from the perspective of, sustainability and kind of what we talk about on this podcast. What have you kind of learned along the way?
I think that's a great question. And I have truly learned so many lessons as, an engineer, as an entrepreneur. One of my favorite quotes is by Secretary Colin Powell, which says, "There's no secret to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failures." And that quote just always speaks to me. And I think as an entrepreneur, no one teaches you in school how to be an entrepreneur. And as an engineer, the aspects of business development, marketing didn't really come natural to me during my first few years of business. But what I did have is passion, perseverance, dedication, and family, friends, colleagues, and mentors, as well as advisors who were cheering me on and cheering the success of Ensight Energy on. And so that kept me motivated. And so some of the lessons that I've learned over the years is to check in every now and again to ensure that I'm still enjoying the ride, because that's very important as a business owner. You have to enjoy where you are. And while there's ups and downs, there's many rewards to being an entrepreneur as well. And so appreciating those rewards. Self-care is also very important. You have to take time for yourself. For me, meditation and yoga every morning. So that's how I do my self-care, as well as spa days as well. And to ensure that you understand your clients, their needs, and what's your differentiator between you, Ensight, and your competitors or your peers, right? Because I don't like to always say competitors, because we're all in this together as peers. So what's that differentiator between Ensight and them? And last but certainly not least, for me, it was to enjoy my seat at the table, because I deserve to be there more so than anyone else.
That's great. I love all of those messages. But I also really love the idea of a seat at the table, because you deserve it. You worked really hard to get there. You still work really hard to be there. And you've got a voice that counts. I think that that's really important for people to keep remembering, especially when the work gets stressful or there's a lot going on, in other parts of your life. But being able to stay focused and at the table is great. I know this question, it wasn't one that we had talked about previously, but I am really curious too about your work in the community. And if you could speak to that a little bit more about what that looks like and maybe what some of your motivation is there as well, that would be great. I serve on a few boards myself for certain things that I'm really passionate about, and it can take a lot of time and energy, but it's so rewarding. So I'd love to hear more from you on that.
Yeah, most definitely. So I actually grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I guess you would say that I grew up amongst the underrepresented communities where I really didn't know of any other engineers or any other Black females that were engineers, I would say. And I remembered when I was at LSU, my second year, I did an interview for an internship. And this is something that's very interesting. After about 45 minutes in the interview, the gentleman asked me, he says, "Are you sure you want to be an engineer? I've just never met any engineers like you before." And at that point, I said, I never want someone to experience that. And so being an African-American female engineer is something that I'm very proud of, professional engineer here in Colorado. And I want other young kids that look like me to see themselves in me and know that it is possible. And so for that reason, I do give back. I serve on a lot of boards, and I ultimately want to ensure that these communities are not forgotten, especially when we're working with states that are looking at how can they increase their renewable energy and increase their clean energy? How does that plan look? I'm always the one in the room that say, what about workforce development? What about those underrepresented communities? Where are the jobs for them? Where's their seat at the table? And so I would definitely say, while I have, my Ensight energy, from a personal standpoint, I'm the one that actually brings up, what about those communities within those seats at the table that I do hold, which I'm very proud to do that.
That's awesome. So it's not only your voice at the table, but their voices as well.
Yep. That's definitely the way I look at it, because I understand what their needs are. And, I've worked on some very impactful projects that I'm very proud of, such as the Denver Housing Authority projects, our tribal projects that we're working on right now. So these are the projects that are bringing jobs and opportunities to communities that people forget about. And we want to make sure that they are remembered, that they are a part of that clean energy transition as well. And so that's why I serve on, the various boards, the American Council on Renewable Energy, also a part of AID, the American Association of Blacks in Energy, Community College of Foundations as well, because I want to ensure that people see and understand that there's engineers that look like me, and that they understand that, hey, your voice is going to be heard as we look at that clean energy transition.
That's awesome. That's so cool, Monique. Thank you for sharing that. I'm proud to be working with you. What has been the most surprising or thrilling or exciting aspect of your work? It sounds like you've done some really great, thrilling things. Is there one thing that jumps out that you'd want to share a little bit more about?
As I think about that, I would say that no two projects are the same, which is quite interesting, right? So we truly take the time to understand our client needs. And for me and Ensight Energy, we like to believe that our clients rely on us because we are a small team. We're very flexible and reliable. And ultimately, we're high touch. So we're always available to meet our clients' needs. As you know, on our project, we have to have some level of flexibility there. And we ultimately consider ourselves an extension of their core team, and we're partners with them in achieving project success. And so I greatly appreciate seeing a project from just a goal or idea to seeing its success in a development, construction, and operation. So to see that operation of a project. And I'd like to say that as a technical advisor, it's Ensight's opinions that ensure that clean energy transition for generations to come. And so that's truly something that I'm proud of, and something that's thrilling of having this type of work. So I would say surprising and thrilling, but also just kind of a proud moment to be a part of these projects that are leading the clean energy transition.
Yeah, that's awesome. I said this at least one interview before, but, and as you know, Monique, I have 2 little kids, and sometimes they ask, they have climate change anxiety already, in their kind of preteen years. And it's hard to kind of talk through it with them and reassure them that like good people are working every day on solving these problems. And you will have the opportunity to work on solving these problems in the clean energy transition and hopefully making our planet a place that we can all still live in for generations to come. But you are one of those people that I talk about, right? That every day you're doing good work to try to make a difference. And it's really reassuring to them. And it helps me as a parent to be able to say that.
Oh, thank you so very much, Alyssa. And I think it takes so many of us to get to where we need to be as, a country or as a world when we think about clean energy. And I think, coming out of college and starting within this space, I'm like, yeah, you go engineers and we're, the ones that's making it happen. But it's so many of us. It's lawyers, it's accountants, it's engineers, it's business individuals, it's politicians. We're all in this together. And so that's very encouraging that there's so many people that's looking to understand where we need to be as a country, but also globally to make the world a better place and lead that clean energy transition. So very encouraging.
So speaking about kind of that future, what do you think is kind of coming around the corner in the clean energy renewables industry, kind of in the next 3 to 5 years? What are the trends that you're seeing from the technical side?
I think that's a great question. What I definitely see moving forward, at least within the next 3 to 5 years, is more development on the transmission infrastructure side. If we look at some of the goals of where we need to be as a country and the IRA, there's definitely a need for more robust, reliable, sustainable transmission infrastructure. So we'll definitely see more transmission projects that are being developed. However, as we know, with permitting and activities as such, to get to that standpoint where those transmission lines are operational can be a very long time, sometimes upwards of 10 years. But I know there's many organizations within the federal government that's looking at what do we need to do from the standpoint of improving and streamlining that permitting activity for that transmission infrastructure. I've been doing some reading on green hydrogen, so I think that green hydrogen will definitely see some opportunities there. From the standpoint of just general energy efficiency and renewable energy, there's a lot of commercial opportunities as Fortune 100, 500 companies look to understand where they can achieve their ESG goals and be more renewable energy and sustainable forward. We'll see a lot of opportunities from those organizations that's looking to increase their renewable energy, whether it's virtual power purchase agreements or on-site renewable energy generation. And then also a lot of standalone battery storage as well. I do think that we'll see standalone battery storage more so than we do right now, especially as more renewable energy comes online. And there's, just from a reliability and sustainability standpoint, we'll need some more backup storage. So those are some of the things that I see. And there's always the, for lack of a better word, low-hanging fruit for energy efficiency. There's a lot of opportunities in energy efficiency. Even as general consumers, what can we do within our homes if we're not looking at installing solar? What can we do to be more efficient within our homes, such as it relates to appliances, bulbs, and things of that nature? So there's a lot of opportunities in the sustainability, renewables, and I guess transmission infrastructure. And so we're definitely excited to be a part of it. And it's exciting times.
Yeah. I love how you bring it from the big picture, transmission, right? This huge power lines across the country, all the way down to the light bulbs that we're putting our lamps. I mean, there's so many different levels that people can tackle this. So
right. And it takes us all, like we were talking about earlier, we're all in this together. So,
well, Monique, thank you so much for your time and your energy and sharing your story. I'm really glad we got to talk. I know it took a little while to get it organized. And then we got to talk in this regard. We get to talk almost every week on our project, but I'm really looking forward to putting this out on the podcast platform and just really appreciate your time.
And most definitely. Thank you so very much, Alyssa, and thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainable Outlook. To listen to past episodes and receive notices for new episodes, subscribe by searching Hub Talks, that's HUB Talks, in your favorite podcast app. We hope you will tune in next time to learn more about the outlook of the burgeoning sustainable economy.